There's a number sitting in your checking account right now that you think represents safety. You earned it. You saved it. You told yourself it means you're doing well. But that number is doing something to you that nobody warned you about. It's making you obedient. Not in an obvious way. Not like someone standing over you, giving orders. More like a leash you can't see. One that gets shorter every time your lifestyle gets a little nicer. And the strange part, the part that should keep you up tonight, is that the people who earn the most often wear the shortest leash of all. There's a concept I'm going to explain later in this video that takes exactly 72 hours to execute. It costs nothing. It requires no special knowledge. And it is the single fastest way to determine whether you actually own your life or whether your paycheck owns you. Most people who hear about it nod and say, that makes sense, and then never do it. Not because it's hard, because the answer terrifies them. But before we get there, we need to talk about the lie, the big one, the one your parents told you, the one your guidance counselor told you, the one every financial article, every career coach, every well-meaning mentor has been repeating since you were 17 years old. Earn more money and you'll be free. Get the degree, land the job, climb the ladder, negotiate the raise. More income equals more freedom. It sounds so obviously true that questioning it feels stupid, like questioning gravity. But here's what happens when you actually watch people climb. They don't get freer. They get quieter. They stop taking risks. They stop saying what they think in meetings. They start calculating how many months of mortgage payments they have if things go sideways. They smile more carefully. They hedge every opinion. They become a very expensive version of compliant. And if you're sitting there right now, making 6 figures, thinking, something feels off, but I can't name it. This is what's off. You traded one cage for a nicer one. The bars are just further apart, so you don't notice them as often. Think about a bridge. Not a modern bridge with cables and steel. An old rope bridge stretched across a canyon, the kind where every step makes it sway. When you first cross that bridge, you have nothing. No safety net, no gear, just you and the ropes. And because you have nothing to lose, you move fast. You grab whatever is in front of you. You don't think about falling because falling and standing still feel equally dangerous. So you move. Now imagine that halfway across, someone hands you a glass vase. Beautiful, expensive, irreplaceable. Suddenly, your grip changes. Your steps get smaller. You stop looking ahead and start looking down. You're not crossing the bridge anymore. You're protecting the vase. Every step becomes about not dropping it. And the cruel trick is that the vase was supposed to be a reward for how far you've come. Instead, it turned the rest of the crossing into a hostage negotiation with yourself. That vase is your salary, your mortgage, your car, your reputation, your kids' school tuition, your spouse's expectation of what life is supposed to look like. Every year you earn more, someone hands you another vase, and every vase makes the crossing slower, more careful, more terrified. You're not building a life. You're accumulating reasons to stand perfectly still in the middle of a bridge you were supposed to cross. What nobody told you about that bridge is that some people put the vases down. Not all of them, not forever. They just set them on the planks for a moment and take 3 steps without holding anything. And in those 3 steps, they remember something they'd forgotten. What it feels like to move without fear. Here's what happens inside the mind of someone earning $140,000 a year. They wake up on a Monday morning with a thought that flickers so fast they barely catch it. I don't want to go in today. Not because they're lazy, not because the work is terrible, because somewhere beneath the routine, Beneath the commute and the calendar and the laptop bag, there is a quiet voice saying, "This is not the life I designed. This is the life that happened to me while I was being responsible." But the thought lasts maybe 2 seconds, because then the machinery kicks in. Mortgage is $2,400. Car payment is $680. Daycare is $1,800. The health insurance through work covers the family. The 401k match vests next year. And just like that, the flicker dies. Not because the feeling was wrong, because the math made it irrelevant. That's the trap. Not that you can't leave, that you've built a life where leaving feels like arithmetic suicide. And every raise, every promotion, every bonus tightens the math a little more. You're not climbing a ladder. You're climbing into a structure that becomes harder to exit the higher you go. The person making $50,000 who hates their job can quit and bartend for 6 months while they figure it out. The person making $180,000 who hates their job will stay for 11 more years because they have a kitchen renovation financed at 6.9% and twins starting private school in the fall. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. When was the last time you made a major life decision without first calculating whether your paycheck could survive it? When was the last time you chose something because you wanted it, not because it fit inside the container your salary built around you? If you can't remember, you've already answered the question. Your income isn't funding your freedom. It's funding your compliance. And compliance at $180,000 a year still feels a lot like a cage. It just has granite countertops. There's a researcher at Princeton, his work got famous about a decade ago, who found that emotional well-being rises with income up to about $75,000 a year. After that, more money does not make you measurably happier. It makes you more comfortable, yes, more insulated, but not happier. Updated for inflation, that number is around $95,000 today. Everything above that is buying complexity, not contentment. And here's the data that should make you physically uncomfortable. A survey of 10,000 professionals earning between $100,000 and $250,000 found that 68% described themselves as financially stressed. Not tight, not watching their spending, stressed. The kind of stress that follows you into the shower on Sunday night and sits in your chest during dinner with your kids. They're making 2 to 4 times the median household income, and they feel trapped. Because their expenses expanded to fill their income, the way gas expands to fill a room. Invisibly, inevitably, until every corner is saturated and there's no air left. Now here's where the 72 hours come in, and I need you to understand what this actually is before I explain how it works. This is not a budgeting trick. This is not a savings hack. This is a diagnostic. The way a doctor orders blood work not to cure you, but to find out what's actually wrong. The 72-hour rule exists to answer one question, a question most people spend their entire career avoiding. How long can you survive without your next paycheck before your life starts to collapse? Not how long until you're uncomfortable, not how long until you downgrade, how long until the structure you've built around yourself begins to crack. Missed mortgage, missed car payment, insurance lapse, the phone calls start. Here's what you do. You sit down. 72 hours is how long this exercise takes, not how long the answer should be. You sit down on a Friday evening and you list every single fixed obligation in your life. Everything that requires your income to exist. Mortgage or rent, car payments, insurance premiums, subscriptions, memberships, loan minimums, tuition, recurring charges, all of it. Then you calculate the total. That number is your monthly obligation load. Then you look at your liquid savings. Not retirement accounts you can't touch without penalty, not home equity, not the value of your car. Cash you could access by Monday morning. Divide the second number by the first. That's your runway. That's how many months you could survive if your income disappeared tomorrow. Most people earning over $100,000 expect their number to be 12 months, maybe 18. The average is 2.7, 2.5 months. Some of the highest earners, people pulling in 200,000, 300,000, come back with 6 weeks. 6 weeks between a layoff and financial crisis. They've been building a castle on a foundation made of next Friday's direct deposit. And they didn't know until they did the math. That number, whatever it is the most important number in your financial life. More important than your salary. More important than your net worth on paper. Because that number determines how you behave. A person with 18 months of runway negotiates differently than a person with 6 weeks. Not slightly differently, fundamentally differently. The person with 6 weeks agrees to things they shouldn't, tolerates treatment they'd never accept if they had options, says yes to projects they know are wrong because saying no feels like stepping off a cliff. They don't speak up in meetings when they should. They don't push back on bad ideas from people above them. They don't ask for what they're worth because the risk of hearing no and having it escalate feels existential. And it is existential. When your runway is 6 weeks, everything is existential. The person with 18 months sits in the same meeting, hears the same bad idea, and says, I think we should reconsider this approach. Not because they're braver, because they can afford to be honest. Honesty is a luxury that only people with runway can afford. Everyone else is performing. And performance at $200,000 a year is still performance. You're just wearing a nicer costume. This is the turning point. This is where the entire frame shifts. Wealth is not your income. Wealth is not your net worth on a spreadsheet. Wealth is the number of bad options you can survive without fear. Read that again. Wealth is the number of bad options you can survive without fear. The person making $80,000 with 12 months of savings and no debt is wealthier than the person making $250,000 with 6 weeks of runway and a lifestyle that requires every dollar. Because the first person can walk away from a bad boss, a toxic project, an unfair situation. The second person cannot. The first person has freedom. The second person has income. Those are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing. And every year you spend confusing them is a year you spend tightening the leash. Let's talk about what happens when you actually build runway. Not theoretically, practically, in the body, in the nervous system, in the way you walk into a room. There's a study from the University of Minnesota that found people who felt financially secure made measurably better decisions under pressure. Not different decisions, better ones. More creative, more patient, more willing to wait for the right outcome instead of grabbing the first acceptable one. Their cortisol levels were lower. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles complex reasoning and long-term planning, was more active. Financial security doesn't just feel good. It makes you smarter. It makes you calmer. It makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Because a person who doesn't need the deal will always negotiate better than a person who does. Always, without exception. The desperation leaks. It leaks through your voice, your posture, your willingness to accept the first offer. Clients smell it. Employers smell it. It's the reason the person who already has 3 job offers always gets the best salary. Not because they're more qualified, because they can walk away. And the ability to walk away is the most valuable asset in any negotiation. You can't buy it with income. You can only build it with runway. So let's look at the numbers, not hypothetically, concretely. Person A earns $150,000 a year. After taxes, in a high-cost state, they take home roughly $8,900 a month. Their fixed obligations total $7,600. That's mortgage, 2 car payments, insurance, student loans, daycare, the gym, streaming services, the meal kit subscription they keep meaning to cancel. They save $1,300 a month, which sounds reasonable until you realize their runway is less than 3 months. They've been earning 6 figures for 9 years, and they're 90 days from crisis at all times. Person B earns $95,000, takes home about $6,100. Fixed obligations total $3,400. They drive a paid-off car. They rent a modest apartment. They don't have subscriptions they don't use. They save $2,700 a month. Their runway is 14 months and growing. Person B can quit their job tomorrow and spend 4 months finding exactly the right next thing. Person A can't miss a single paycheck. Person A looks more successful. Person B is more free. And freedom compounds the same way money does. Every month of runway you add makes the next month easier to earn because you're making decisions from strength instead of survival. Here's what 14 months of runway actually buys in the real world. Person B gets called into a meeting. The company is restructuring. They're offered a lateral move to a department they have no interest in or a severance package worth 3 months' pay. Person A, in the same meeting, takes the lateral move instantly because 3 months of severance plus 3 months of savings equals 6 months, and that's not enough to find something good. They know they'll hate the new role. They take it anyway. Person B takes the severance. 3 months of pay plus 14 months of savings equals 17 months. They spend 2 months decompressing. They spend 1 month researching. They take 4 meetings with companies they actually want to work for. They accept an offer that pays $15,000 more with better hours and a culture that doesn't make them dread Sunday nights. Person A is still in the lateral role, earning the same money, hating the new team, updating their resume at 11 p.m. between episodes of a show they're watching to forget about work. Same company, same restructuring, completely different outcomes. The variable wasn't talent, it was runway. But here's the part that nearly everyone gets wrong, and this is the mistake that will undo everything if you're not careful. The moment your runway hits a comfortable number, 8 months, 12 months, your brain starts whispering. You did it. You're safe now. You can loosen up. And loosening up looks so reasonable. It's never a Ferrari. It's a slightly bigger apartment, an extra vacation, the kitchen renovation you've been postponing, your kid's travel soccer league that costs $4,800 a year, private swim lessons, the meal delivery service because you're so busy. None of it feels reckless because none of it is reckless in isolation. But in aggregate, over 12 months, your obligations creep from $3,400 to $4,100 to $4,900. And your 14 months of runway quietly becomes 8, then 6, then 4. And you're right back where you started, except now you have granite countertops and a child who expects travel soccer. The retreat is invisible. There's no alarm, no notification, no moment where you feel the leash tighten. It just tightens, millimeter by millimeter. Until one Tuesday, a recruiter calls with an incredible opportunity that would require a temporary pay cut, and you hear yourself say, "I can't afford to take that risk right now." And you don't even flinch when you say it, because it's become the most natural sentence in your vocabulary. I can't afford to. 5 words that used to mean you were broke. Now they mean you're trapped. Same words. Higher tax bracket. The 72-hour exercise isn't something you do once. It's something you do every 6 months for the rest of your earning life. Because the drift is constant. The obligations multiply quietly, and the only defense is awareness. Relentless, uncomfortable, numerical awareness of exactly how free you actually are. Not how free you feel, not how free you look. How free the math says you are. Remember the bridge, the vases, the way each one made your steps slower, your grip tighter, your eyes more focused on what you might lose instead of where you're going. The 72-hour rule doesn't ask you to throw the vases off the bridge. It asks you to count them, to hold each one up and ask, do I carry this because it matters to me, or because I forgot I could set it down? Most people never ask. They just keep collecting vases and wondering why the crossing feels so heavy, why every step requires more effort, why the other side of the canyon doesn't seem to get any closer no matter how many raises they earn. You clicked on this because something in the title suggested there was a way out, an exit plan. And there is. But it's not a spreadsheet. It's not a side hustle. It's not a budget app. It's the willingness to sit down for 72 hours and discover how trapped you actually are. Because you cannot escape a cage you refuse to measure. And the measurement itself, the act of looking at the number and letting it be whatever it is, that's the first step across the bridge without holding anything. 3 steps, just to remember what it feels like. The number in your checking account isn't safety. It's a score in a game you didn't choose to play. The question was never how much do you earn. The question was always how many months can you survive on your own terms. And now you know how to answer it. The only thing left is whether you will.